Hey everybody, I think many people know sweets like Ferrero Rocher. We decided to make one such candy, but of gigantic size. Let's see what's inside it first. It has chocolate with nuts on the outside, then a crispy layer, chocolate paste and hazelnuts. Everything's clear. To begin with, we will buy the groceries we need. We bought milk chocolate, a lot of sugar, 2 boxes of cocoa powder, 2 boxes of butter, 5 kilograms each. We don't need anything else in the store, so we go to the checkout. Our check came out to $190. We also bought a bag of crispy rice, 10 kilograms of peanuts, and a bag of hazelnuts to order. All this cost around $136. We decided to use such large iron cauldrons as molds. For convenience, we bend the fasteners and remove the handles. We turn the cauldrons over, wrap them with cling film. To make a crispy layer, we'll use the rice. It's as crispy as possible. To get that to stick together, we'll make a caramel. We send half a can of corn syrup into a saucepan, 6 kilograms of sugar. We put that on the stove. Be sure to use a candy thermometer. The temperature needs to reach 146 degrees. Pour out the airy rice and mix that into the caramel. We'll pour this whole mass on top of the mold and try to stick it to the whole cauldron. This is where it all went wrong. The caramel cooled down really quickly and is falling apart, and it doesn't hold its shape at all. And so this is difficult to call these cauldrons normal forms. We decided to redo everything. We ordered acrylic semicircles. We open them up. And take them out. I think that this is perfect. So to keep everything from sticking to the molds, we spray with oil from a can onto the inner walls of the circle. This time, to get the rice to stick, we'll use marshmallows. We put 2 packs in a bowl and put that into the microwave. They melted down pretty well. It turns out the consistency of an elastic cream. We put the air rice in the same bowl. Combine all this with a spatula. We're left with a viscous mass, and I think we'll be fine with it. Spray some oil onto your gloves so that the marshmallow doesn't stick. And send this mass into the bowl. Now distribute it all around the form. And we continue to do this until we cover the inner walls completely. Done. The next stage is the chocolate paste inside. We take 2 boxes of butter, take them out, and put 2 sticks into a saucepan. We put it on the stove so that it melts. And done. Now we need a lot of condensed milk. This one we have left after the last video. We need peanuts and cocoa. Put the blender bowl on the scales and put 300 grams of peanuts into it. 2 tablespoons of cocoa. We open 2 cans of condensed milk. And pour those in as well. And last but not least, 200 grams of butter. Cover that with a lid and put it into the blender and turn it on. We grind this until we get a homogeneous mass. The consistency of the paste, like Nutella, is quite dense. Using a spatula, we shift the paste into the bowl. We keep repeating this from time to time. And after about 6 hours of work, the condensed milk, butter, and almost all the nuts are finished, and the forms are even less than half full. I had to buy all the groceries again. We continue making the chocolate paste. Now, once the forms are completely filled, it took 8 hours. And finally, this stage is finished. The next layer is the whole nut. We need to make 2 huge halves of hazelnuts. We'll use a lot of this nut. Now, the hazelnuts are raw and don't really smell. To fix this, pour it into 2 baking sheets and pop them in the oven. Let them warm up for 20 minutes to release their fragrance. To hold the nuts together, we'll cook another caramel. The composition is exactly the same. Corn syrup, a packet of sugar, and water. Pop all that on the stove, and be sure to use a candy thermometer. As soon as it's 145 degrees, we take out the finished nuts and put them into the saucepan. Mix them well with the caramel. We move this over to a bowl, which is the same shape as our hemisphere. Done. As soon as the caramel is hardened, we remove the bowl and tear off the parchment paper. We're left with a perfect half of a huge nut, or rather 2. Just put them in the middle of the mold into the chocolate paste. We spread the paste with a spatula so that there's a layer of the same height everywhere. Now this candy is very soft, and if you take it out of the mold, it'll just fall apart. So we send these semicircles into the freezer. That's where they'll cool down, and the chocolate filling will become dense. 2 days later, and the candy is completely cooled. Before you get to it, you need to prepare a lot of things. First, make the packaging. We bought this kind of packaging gold paper. To repeat the design, we crush it with our hands. Then we straighten it back. We unwind the double-sided tape and glue on another sheet. We have 6 in total, and we want to combine them into a huge one. Done. This second stage. For our future outer layer, you need to add nuts. Everything is simple. Put them into a blender and crush until you get like an average fraction. Pour that into another bowl. The third preparatory stage. We take a chocolate bar, open it, and break it. We fill the whole bowl with these pieces. Now we'll melt this in a steam bath. It decreases in volume, so we break more. And that's it. We have a bowl of hot chocolate. Now for last. Make some more chocolate paste in order to glue the halves together. We need to wrap the table well with cling wrap. Finally, you can bring the chilled halves back for the candy. We cut off the protruding air rise. Turn the form over. That's one half. Now for the second one. Thank God everything went well and nothing cracked. Spread all this over with a layer of chocolate. The easiest way is to pour the chocolate directly from the layer and spill it with a spatula. Now sprinkle the crushed nuts on top until they stick to the whole candy. And we put another layer of chocolate on top of that. We mix it with the nuts directly with a spatula so that it looks just like the original. Done. It turned out perfectly. And we repeat all this for the second half. As soon as the chocolate is frozen, we cut the food film off and put one half onto a board. Remove the cling wrap and apply the chocolate paste to glue the candy halves together. We put the second one on top. Everything is almost ready, and I feel like this is just as similar as possible to the original smaller version. So let's seal it. Due to the fact that this is paper, not foil, it turned out not very smoothly, and so the final touch is the sticker. Finally, after 4 days of hard work, our giant Ferrero Rocher candy weighing 100 kilograms is ready. I feel like it turned out really well. I calculated its cost. Taking into account of all the additional purchases, it turned out to be $940. Let's cut off a piece. Hey there, everybody. Surely everyone knows what a Kinder Milk Slice is, right? Today, we decided to make one on a truly unimaginable scale. But first, let's open it up and see what it's made of. Here we see 2 chocolate biscuits and a bunch of cream. It's obviously very tasty, but the cream is a little chemically. Let's go to the store. We decided to split the purchase up into 2 stages. Today, we're doing the first. We'll buy all the groceries we need to make huge biscuits. The first thing we need is chicken eggs, as many as 840 of them. The next thing we'll need is sugar. This will take up to 30 kilograms. 11 kilograms of cocoa powder, 2 kilograms of baking powder, 25 kilograms of flour, 13 liters of oil. With all this, we're headed to the checkout. First purchase cost us $245. Now we'll cook the biscuits in our huge oven. But we need to preheat it so it has time to warm up. Now we open up the boxes of eggs. We take out 2 trays and put them on the lower part of the table. We need 420 eggs for 1 batch. We put 2 containers on the table, one smaller, the other bigger. Now we take the eggs and separate the yolks from the whites. It took us about 1.5 hours to separate all the eggs. Done. We set the egg whites aside for now. We take the sugar, open it, and pour 15 kilograms into the yolks. Now, using a cement mixer, we beat the yolks into the sugar until the whole mixture turns white. Now we take 6 liters of oil, open it, and fill her up. If we use any less, our biscuit just won't hold its shape the way we need it to. Then we mix well. Ready for our next step. We need 5.5 kilograms of cocoa powder. We open it, and pour it out. And now we mix. It takes another 20 minutes or so to mix it all up, and we're left with a very thick dough. Now, we need to carefully pour in 6.5 liters of boiling water. We'll mix this in so that the dough thins out a bit. Done. Now we need flour. We'll start by pouring in the first 5.5 kilograms. And mix it up. Then we'll add another 7.5 kilograms. Now we add in another kilogram of baking powder. And we get a nice, even dough. Our pot is filled to the brim, so we'll take a big wash basin and move our dough into it. Now let's take our egg whites and pour some of them into another saucepan. We tried beating them with our industrial mixer, but it didn't work out. I guess it's pretty impossible to beat that many egg whites into a dense mixture. So, we decided to use a self-mixer that does everything itself. Let's pour a little bit of the egg whites into each of them. And turn it on. The process has started. After about 5 minutes, we get this foam. That means it's time to add sugar. We'll mix this for another 2 minutes, and then we can move these whipped egg whites into the chocolate dough. Now let's carefully mix it with a spatula so that none of the air bubbles come out of the whipped mixture. We're going to load in our next portion of egg whites. Move it back to the bowl and mix. As a result, you're going to have a really lush dough. With the second half already in the basin, we do the same thing. Now our biscuit dough is ready. But what do we bake it in? We got help from a friend in a workshop. They drafted up a drawing on a computer, which sends the blueprint to a huge machine that uses a laser to cut out the desired piece of sheet metal. We take our piece of metal from the machine and cut out the places for bends with a grinder. Now we bend the edges until we get a box shape formed. Then all the seams are welded together, and we're left with a giant baking sheet. Now we pour oil all over it and smear it around with a brush. We take out some parchment and cover the baking sheet with it. Thanks to the oil, our parchment will stick well to the sheet. So we cover the whole thing. Done. Now we pour out dough onto it and level it out. Done. We transfer the baking sheet into the oven and push it in. We'll bake this for 4 hours at 180 degrees. Then we turn off the oven and leave the biscuit in there until morning, so it has time to set and thicken. The next morning, we take it out. It's risen a little and completely baked. Now we need to make sure the tender part of the biscuit is at the top. We figured out the best way to do it is by applying plywood to the top and 2 planks to the sides. We'll fix these together tightly with clamps. We want to remove the baking sheet for now. So we put another piece of plywood on the table with 4 bricks on it and turn the whole thing over. We remove the clamps and gently lift off the baking sheet. We end up with a beautiful biscuit that weighs as much as 50 kilograms. And it only took 2 days to prepare it. We'll set it aside for now. Now we need to knead the dough for another identical biscuit. Load it all into the oven, close the doors, and the next morning we have another biscuit, just as beautiful as the first one. It's time to go pick up the groceries to make the cream. The first thing we need is a lot of condensed milk. 6 2-liter packages of milk, an unrealistic amount of Amish cheese, 80 kilograms. We'll need agar-agar. We took 200 packages. 2 kilograms of vanilla sugar. 3 5-liter jugs of water. We take all this to the checkout and bag it all up. Our second check came out to $506. We put the Amish cheese that we bought onto the table and open them up. We had 80 kilograms of Amish cheese. All this needs to be ground up, and preferably quickly. We remove the front plate from the mixer and attach the meat grinder to it, and the saucer on top. We open another plate and attach the blender. We take a package of cheese, open it, and pour part of it into the blender and the other part into the meat grinder. We close the blender and put a saucepan below the grinder and turn on the mixer. While we are pushing the cheese through the meat grinder, the blender is taking care of everything on its own. The only help it needs is to periodically move out the cheese curds. We ground it all using 6 hands until the cheese runs out. 3 hours later, we have a whole pan of this cheesy mass. We take the tub of water and move the cheese mass into it. We open the vanilla sugar and pour it in. Now we just need the condensed milk. We open a bottle and pour the whole thing into the mixture. We made sure to buy extra, so there's a lot left. Now we use the industrial mixer to mix the cheese with the milk. We're left with a creamy mass. We take 3 jugs with water in a saucepan. Open the water and pour it out. Now we take agar-agar, open it, and pour all 200 packets into the water. For now, just mix the agar-agar and leave to soak for 30 minutes. We cut off part of the roll of industrial foil with a grinder and wrap it around the bottom biscuit in a circle. We fix all this together with tape. And to keep it all even tighter, we will also attach the boards on the sides with the same adhesive tape. It turned out to be such a good form for filling the cream that it doesn't spread. Put a saucepan with water and agar-agar on the stove. Boil for 2 minutes and pour in hot milk. Mix well. This liquid will make the cheesy mass harden, and that way it won't be crushed under the weight of the second biscuit. Pour half into one basin and mix well. Now the second half. While the filling has not started to thicken, we quickly transfer it to the biscuits. Level the filling and leave it to cool overnight. The next morning, the cream is hardened. We remove the foil framework. We had a very tall layer of cream turn out. Finally, the big moment. All that remains is to put the second biscuit on the cream. Done. We finally made a Kinder Milk slice. All it took was 6 days. After calculating the weight of the groceries we bought, we found out that our huge dessert weighs as much as 210 kilograms and costs $766. Let's cut off a piece. This is the type of huge chunk that we're going to ship off to all of our friends and relatives. Look at what a huge sponge cake turned out inside. I put the cream on a piece of sponge cake, covered it with a second one,